Kenzie, I've got this new app idea that's going to revolutionize everything, Jack declared, eyes glued to his phone. I laughed, placing a hand on his shoulder. Of course you do, Mr. Genius. Just don't forget to revolutionize our anniversary plans, too. Jack barely looked up. Yeah. Sorry, just one sec, gotta reply to this email. As I watched him tap away, a twinge of unease crept in. Jack and I always celebrated our milestones grandly, and he was never this distracted before. I brushed off the thought, pushing the unease aside. Our lives were perfect. We had shared dreams, flourishing careers, and a bond that seemed unbreakable. Weeks passed, and Jack's absorption in his phone grew. He had become a fixture in his office late into the night. One evening, after returning from work, I found him still on his phone. "Dinner's ready," I called, setting the table. Jack mumbled something incoherent, still focused on his screen. I sighed, louder than intended. He finally looked up, offering a weak smile. "Just finishing up some work stuff." "More emails?" I couldn't hide the sarcasm in my voice. Jack sighed. "Kenzie, it's complicated. Just trust me." "Trust you? That's the thing, Jack. It's hard to trust someone who's always hiding behind a screen." He stood up, approaching the table. "I'm not hiding anything. Work's just demanding right now. We'll celebrate once things calm down." I nodded, but doubt gnawed at me. Something felt off, an undercurrent of tension I couldn't ignore. Another late night. I woke to an empty bed, Jack nowhere in sight. I tiptoed down the stairs, peeking into his home office. There he was, whispering into his phone. "Jack, it's almost midnight," I interrupted. He jumped, sliding his phone into his pocket. "Go back to sleep, Kenzie." Now my curiosity was piqued. "Who were you talking to?" "Just a client from another time zone. You know how it is." His tone was defensive, making my suspicion grow stronger. I crossed my arms. "Do I?" He sighed, running a hand through his hair. "You're overthinking this, Kenzie. Go to bed." Reluctantly I did, but the seeds of doubt were firmly planted. The next morning at breakfast, Jack barely touched his food. "Busy day?" I asked, trying to keep the conversation light. "Yeah. Got a big project in the works. Sorry if I seem distant." The apology was half-hearted. "Maybe we should plan a weekend getaway," I suggested. "Could do us some good." He nodded absent-mindedly. "Sure, sounds nice." But his lack of enthusiasm was evident. Our seemingly perfect life was beginning to show cracks, and a gnawing feeling in my gut told me things were about to get worse. I decided to talk to Mia, my best friend, at lunch later that day. If anyone could offer perspective, it was her. Yet a part of me already knew I wasn't overthinking. The perfect illusion was crumbling, and buried beneath it lay truths that would soon unravel our lives. I met Mia at our usual lunch spot, a cozy cafe downtown. We ordered our usual chicken salad for me and a turkey club for her. As comfortable as our routine was, an uncomfortable feeling loomed over me. "Everything okay, Kenz?" Mia asked, taking a sip of her iced tea. "Jack's been acting strange. He's always on his phone, working late. It doesn't feel right." Mia gave me a sympathetic look. "Maybe it's just work stress. You know how demanding tech can be." "Maybe," I replied, though I wasn't convinced. Just then, my eyes caught a familiar figure outside the cafe window. Jack. He was standing close to a young woman, laughing, his arm around her waist. My heart sank. "Mia," I said sharply, interrupting her mid-sentence. "Look." She turned to follow my gaze and gasped. "Is that—" "Jack," I confirmed softly, "and he's not alone." We both watched as Jack leaned in to kiss the woman. I felt a wave of nausea. This wasn't just a work thing. It was something far more painful. Mia shook her head in disbelief. "Kenzie, I'm so sorry." I stood abruptly, determined to confront him. Mia grabbed my arm. "No, not here. Wait till you have him alone." Chomping down my initial impulse, I nodded. "You're right, but that," I pointed out the window, "isn't just anyone. That's Paige." Her eyes widened. "My daughter, Paige? No way. She's only 24. What the hell is going on?" "I wish I knew," I said through gritted teeth. "I'll find out tonight." Dinner was a silent affair, tension hanging like a storm cloud. Jack poked at his food, clearly distracted. "Who was she?" I finally blurted out. Jack looked up, feigning confusion. "Who?" "Don't who me. Paige, I saw you with her today." His face hardened. "Kenzie, it's not what you think." "Then what is it?" I demanded, my voice shaking with anger. Jack pushed his chair back and stood up. "Fine. You want the truth? Paige and I are seeing each other." It felt like the floor dropped from beneath me. "You're seeing my best friend's daughter? How could you?" I'm tired of this life, Jack snapped. I need something new, something exciting. Paige gives me that. I could barely breathe. So you destroy our life for what? A fling? It's more than a fling, he said coldly. I'm done pretending. I stood there, staring at a man I no longer recognized. The silence grew heavy until Jack muttered, I'm staying with Paige tonight. He walked out, leaving me in the ruins of our perfect life. The door slammed, and I broke down by feeling the sting of betrayal cut deep. The man I thought I knew was gone, replaced by a stranger tangled up with a girl half his age. This wasn't just an end, it was a beginning. The beginning of understanding just how deep this betrayal cut and where it would lead me next. I dialed my mother, Evelyn, the next morning, desperate for some sense of clarity. As soon as she picked up, I could barely keep the tears from spilling. Mom, I need to talk to you. Can you come over? Her voice was firm yet concerned. I'll be there in 20 minutes. When she arrived, I could see the worry etched on her face. Kenzie, what's going on? Jack's having an affair, I replied, trying to steady my voice. With Paige. Evelyn's eyes widened in shock. Paige? Mia's daughter? Yes, and he admitted he's leaving me for her. As if on cue, Mia called me. Kenzie, I heard everything. I'm coming over. We need to talk about this face to face. We all gathered in my living room. The tension was palpable. Mia was the first to break the silence. I never thought Paige could do something like this. She's my daughter. How could she betray you, betray us like this? It gets worse, I said. Jack's leaving me for her. He's tired of our life. Evelyn shook her head. Her usual calm rattled. We need to confront them. This can't go on. Before I could respond, the door opened, and in walked Jack and Paige, hand in hand. The audacity of it took my breath away. Well, looks like the party started without us, Paige sneered. How dare you? Mia shouted, stepping forward. You betrayed your own family. Paige shrugged, unfazed. It's not my fault you all are so boring. Jack wants excitement, and I can give him that. Jack stood there, silent but resolute. His presence was like a wall, indifferent and cold. Evelyn, Mia pleaded, say something, please. My mother took a deep breath. Paige, you've always been conniving, but this... I never thought you would stoop so low to destroy your own family. Paige rolled her eyes. Spare me the lecture, Grandma. This isn't about family. It's about what I want, and I'm getting it. You're tearing everything apart, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Jack finally spoke. We're not tearing anything apart that wasn't already broken. I'm done living a lie. So this is it? I asked, desperation clinging to my words. You're choosing this over us? That's right. Paige answered for him, pulling Jack closer. Get used to it. Evelyn stepped forward then. Paige, you're living off a trust fund that's about to run out. What happens when you're broke? Shock rippled across Paige's face, though she quickly masked it. We'll manage, right, Jack? Jack hesitated, the first sign of doubt crossing his face. Think long and hard, Jack, Evelyn continued. Is this really what you want? Jack's silence was deafening, the realization hitting him for the first time. As they turned to leave, the sense of finality settled in. But amidst the heartbreak, there was a small flicker of hope. It was the beginning of a plan, a way to regain control and ensure they would come to regret every single decision they had made. Evelyn and Mia stayed late into the evening, offering support and helping me regain some composure. The reality of my situation made it almost impossible to think clearly. Kenzie, you need to focus on yourself now, Evelyn said firmly, and figure out your next move. I will, but I can't just let them get away with this, I replied, the anger in my voice unmistakable. Mia nodded. We've got to hit them where it hurts. Paige's trust fund is almost gone, and Jack doesn't know that yet. The thought was sobering. I smiled slightly, a plan beginning to form. That's a start, and they'll be penniless soon. Over the next few days, I focused on my job, pouring all my energy into my work. Success would be my revenge. The drive to succeed, combined with the desire for payback, propelled me forward. Each day, the path became clearer. One evening, I needed to relive some of the tension, so I met up with Zoe, my closest friend since college, who worked as a private investigator. If anyone could help dig in deeper, it was her. Zoe, I need your help, I said as we sat down in her office. She took a sip from her coffee and leaned forward. Give me the details. Jack's been cheating on me with Paige, Mia's daughter, I explained quickly. Zoe's brow furrowed. That's messy. What do you want me to do? I need anything and everything you can find. Financials, secrets, there has to be something, I said resolutely. You got it, Zoe replied, grabbing a notepad. I'll get started right away. As Zoe began her investigation, I kept moving ahead. I filed for divorce and focused on climbing the ranks at work. Every success was a small victory, a step towards reclaiming my life. A few days later, Zoe called me. Kenzie, I've got something. Meet me at the cafe. When I arrived, Zoe had a folder ready. Jack's financials are tied up in risky investments, and Paige isn't as squeaky clean as she appears. She's run up a lot of debt, and without that trust fund, she's toast. I felt a grim satisfaction. So they'll hit rock bottom soon. Seems like it, Zoe confirmed. They'll tear each other apart once the money runs dry. At home, I organized the documents and reports Zoe had given me. I would use every bit of this information to ensure they faced the consequences of their actions. Meanwhile, Jack and Paige's relationship started to deteriorate. The financial strain was taking its toll. I heard rumors of their arguments, and it was like a small beacon of justice. Each day, I grew closer to my goal. I could sense their downfall approaching. I would be there, ready to watch it unfold, a fitting end for their betrayal. I knew the time for a dramatic confrontation was nearing, and I was more prepared than ever to face it. The morning after filing for divorce, I felt a strange sense of liberation. It was like I'd cut away the final tether holding me to a life that no longer existed. Jack's reaction had been predictably indifferent when he received the papers. Are you serious, Kenzie? He'd said, briefly looking up from his phone. Is this really necessary? You made it necessary. This is the consequence of your choices, I responded, my voice steady. He shook his head, scoffing as he walked away. His reluctance to acknowledge the gravity of the situation only fueled my resolve. Back in my office, I called Zoe. Can you meet for lunch? I have an idea. At the cafe, we discussed ways to use the information she'd gathered. Jack's partners need to know about his shady financials, Zoe suggested. And Paige's debt. Let's start a little fire and watch it burn, I added. Zoe smirked. I like the way you think. Over the next few weeks, block by block, I built my case. I discreetly provided Jack's partners with evidence of his risky investments. They started distancing themselves, and whispers of mismanagement circulated. Jack was too absorbed in his downward spiral with Paige to notice the backlash coming from his associates. Meanwhile, I threw myself into work. Late nights and hard-fought achievements raised my profile within the company. It wasn't just revenge, it was also about rebuilding my life, on my terms. One evening, on a whim, I called Jack. We need to talk. He sounded suspicious. About what? Meet me at our usual spot, the coffee shop, I said and hung up before he could protest. When he arrived, he looked worn out, shadows under his eyes. So what's this about? How are things with Paige? I kept my tone neutral. Jack sighed. It's complicated. Her trust fund, it's running out soon, isn't it? His eyes widened. You know about that? Of course I do, and the debt she's accumulated. I leaned in. Jack, you left our stable life for this mess. Does she even know? Since when do you care? He retorted, frowning. I don't. I just want you to face the reality you've created, I said, standing up. Good luck with that. Leaving him there, stunned, felt like a small victory. This was far from over. A few days later, Zoe called me, excitement in her voice. Kenzie, I've got something big. Meet me at my office. When I arrived, she handed me another folder. More dirt on Paige. She's been stealing from Jack's business account to pay her debts. I couldn't help but smile. This is exactly what I needed. Ready to pull the trigger? Zoe asked, eyes gleaming. Absolutely, I replied. Let's finish this. I returned home, preparing for the final stage. Jack and Paige were on the brink of ruin, and I was ready to give them the final push. Revenge was no longer just a desire. It was a certainty. And soon, they would face the full consequences of their betrayals. It wasn't long before Jack's world began to crumble. At first, I heard whispers at work about a big fallout between him and several investors. They were pulling out, leaving his latest project hanging by a thread. All the while I watched from a safe distance, quietly relishing each piece of news that slid my way. One night I was working late when my phone buzzed. It was Zoe. You need to hear this, Kenzie. Jack just found out about Paige's secret debts. He is livid. Where are they? I asked, curiosity piqued. They're holed up at their apartment. From what I've heard, things are getting heated. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but another part, a stronger part, needed to see the fallout firsthand. I grabbed my coat and drove to their place, staying out of sight but close enough to hear the raised voices echoing through the night. "Paige, what the hell? You spent how much?" Jack's voice was loud and filled with accusation. Paige fired back, equally loud. "Don't act like you're blameless. Your whole company is falling apart because of your bad decisions." Their words cut through the darkness, filled with venom. After a moment, there was a loud crash. Furniture, or maybe a thrown object. Jack burst out of the door, looking wild-eyed and frantic. I ducked behind a car, holding my breath. "Jack, come back here! We're not done!" Paige screamed from the doorway. "Done? We're done when I say we're done!" Jack shouted back, his voice echoing down the empty street. He got into his car and drove off, tires screeching. I followed at a safe distance, curiosity driving me forward. He arrived at my house, of all places. I stayed back, watching with a mix of satisfaction and curiosity as he banged on my door loudly. I waited a moment before stepping into the light. "Kenzie, please, I need to talk to you," he begged as I approached. "What is it, Jack?" I asked, my voice calm. "I can't go back there. It's a disaster. Everything's falling apart," he admitted, looking desperate. "I warned you about this," I said, keeping my voice steady. "I know you did," he said, tears forming in his eyes. "I made a mistake. Please help me." I stared at him for a long moment, feeling a mixture of pity and triumph. "I can't help you. You chose this path." "Kenzie, please." He grabbed my arm, but I stepped back, pulling out my phone. "I think it's time I call the police. You're not thinking rationally." Jack's eyes widened, panic setting in. No, I'm leaving." Just as he turned to go, Paige appeared, wild-eyed and holding something metallic in her hand. "You're not going anywhere, Jack." I quickly dialed 911, explaining the situation as Paige assaulted Jack with a barrage of accusations. Moments later, the police arrived, diffusing the situation and taking Paige away. As the chaos finally settled, I watched Jack being led away in handcuffs. The public exposure, the scandal, it was all over the news by morning. My mother, Evelyn, and I shared a quiet moment, sipping coffee and taking in the headlines. Justice had been served, and I felt a profound sense of closure washing over me. The morning after the chaotic scene at my house, I woke up to my phone buzzing with notifications. News of Jack and Paige's tumultuous fallout had spread like wildfire. Headlines splashed their scandal across every platform. My inbox was flooded with messages from colleagues, friends, even acquaintances who hadn't contacted me in years. Each message was a reminder that the truth had finally surfaced. As I sipped my coffee, my phone rang again. It was Zoe. "Did you see the news?" "I have. Couldn't happen to a nicer couple, right?" I replied, unable to hide my satisfaction. "Reports say Paige has been arrested, and Jack's been detained for questioning. The whole thing looks bad for them." "Good," I said simply. "They deserve every bit of it." A knock on the door interrupted our call. "Hey, I have to go. Someone's at the door." Opening the door, I found myself face to face with two police officers. "Mackenzie Reed?" the taller officer asked. "Yes, that's me," I replied, heart pounding. "We're here in relation to the incident last night. We need to ask you a few questions." I stepped aside to let them in, memories of the chaos replaying in my mind. They asked about Jack's arrival, Paige's outburst, and my call to the police. I answered truthfully, every word bringing a strange sense of finality. After 30 minutes, they nodded and thanked me for my time. "The investigation will proceed," one officer said. "Jack and Paige will both face various charges. If you need any assistance, don't hesitate to reach out." "Thank you, officers," I said as they left, closing the door and exhaling deeply. Evelyn joined me in the kitchen, having overheard the conversation. "Looks like they're finally facing the consequences," she remarked, her voice steady. "It's about time," I replied, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. The days that followed were surreal. Jack's professional life crumbled as investors and partners distanced themselves from the scandal. His misconduct became public knowledge, and the cracks in his pristine image grew deeper. At work, I was met with sympathetic glances and hushed conversations. Yet, I remained focused, using the chaos to fuel my determination. A week later, the police called again. Jack was officially charged with embezzlement, and Paige was facing multiple counts of fraud and assault. As I hung up the phone, a sense of closure settled over me. That evening, Evelyn and I sat on the porch watching the sunset. "It's finally over," I said, feeling the release of tension. "Yes, it is," she agreed, "and you handled it all with incredible strength." As we sat in comfortable silence, a figure approached. It was Zoe, carrying a bottle of wine. "Thought this called for a celebration," she said, smiling. "Absolutely," I replied, grateful for my friends and family who stood by me. We toasted to new beginnings, the future bright and filled with possibilities. The nightmare was behind me, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I looked forward with hope. Jack and Paige had met their reckoning, and I had emerged stronger, ready to embrace whatever came next. The aftermath of Jack and Paige's downfall brought a strange calm to my life. It felt like everything that once weighed me down had been lifted. My focus shifted entirely to my career, and the rewards quickly followed. Promotions, recognition, everything started to fall into place. One afternoon, I was in a meeting when my phone buzzed with a message from Mia. "Let's catch up. Need to talk." We met at the same cafe where my suspicions had first been confirmed. Mia looked visibly drained but determined. "Kenzie, thank you for everything. You handled this whole mess with such grace." I smiled, sipping my coffee. "I couldn't have done it without you and Zoe. How's Paige?" "Her hearing is next month. She's been cut off and has to face the consequences alone," Mia said, sadness and resolution mixing in her voice. "She made her choices," I replied softly. As the weeks turned into months, the legal proceedings took their toll on Jack and Paige. Jack made a few feeble attempts to contact me, but I blocked all his efforts. He was a chapter I was done reading, and I had no intention of going back. One evening, while working late again, a colleague, Mark Adams, knocked on my office door. "Still here, Kenzie?" "Yeah, just wrapping things up. How about you?" "Same. Listen, I was thinking of grabbing a coffee. Care to join?" There was something comforting about Mark. Reliable, kind, genuine. Sure, I could use a break. We walked to a nearby coffee shop, chatting about work, life, and everything in between. Mark's presence was a welcome change, a reminder that not all was tainted by my previous ordeal. Days turned into weeks, and our coffee breaks became more frequent. Mark's support was unwavering, a stark contrast to the deception I'd endured. One evening, as we walked back to the office, he stopped and turned to me. "Kenzie, would you consider maybe dinner this weekend?" It caught me off guard, but in a good way. I smiled. "I'd like that, Mark. I'd like that a lot." Our dinner date was a turning point. Conversation flowed easily, laughter came naturally, and for the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely happy. Mark was different, steady, caring, and supportive in a way that Jack had never been. Months passed, and as my relationship with Mark blossomed, I finally felt the scars from Jack and Paige's betrayal start to heal. Closure wasn't a single moment, but a series of small victories, of new memories replacing old wounds. One evening, as Mark and I sat on my porch, watching the sun dip below the horizon, he turned to me. "Kenzie, I want you to know I'm here for the long haul. No games, no lies." I looked into his eyes, seeing nothing but sincerity. "Thank you, Mark. That means more than you know." As the stars blinked into existence, I realized my life had come full circle. The chapters of betrayal and revenge were closed, replaced by hope and a genuine connection. With Mark by my side, I was ready to embrace the future, knowing that this time it was built on trust and mutual respect.
A fever? Then where's my food?
Huh? While I had a fever of 104 degrees Fahrenheit, my husband made such an unbelievable comment. My body, which was burning up to the point of collapse, instantly chilled to the core. This is no joke. I'm not your mother. I'll make sure to give him the punishment he deserves, using any means necessary. My name is Sylvia. I work in product development for a major food manufacturer. I've been married to my husband Daryl for almost 3 years. When we were newlyweds, we were really in love and looked forward to the day of our married life. In the past year or so, my husband's attitude changed drastically. And not for the better. Due to both of us working, we used to share the household chores. Since I usually come home late, my husband used to take care of things like preparing the bath and making dinner. However, lately, After coming home, he just lounges on the sofa playing mobile games. There's not even a welcome home when I arrive. Instead, he demands,
I'm hungry. Make dinner quickly.
even though he's my husband, I can't help feeling like I'm raising a child. Even on this day, as soon as I finished my overtime and came home, my husband's demands came flying at me.
Sylvia, you're coming home too late. Seriously, I'm starving.
Too late? You know this time of year is always busy, right? Besides, if you're hungry, why don't you make something to eat? We have frozen pizza, instant curry, and various other things stocked up.
Huh? Seriously, telling your husband who's come back tired from work to just eat frozen pizza? Ugh, that's really off-putting.
No. I work hard, I'm tired, and I come home later than you. You're the one who's going to force your wife to cook for you, aren't you? While grumbling in my mind, I reluctantly start preparing dinner. It's always like this. No matter what I say, my husband never agrees with me. Ultimately, I give in and end up accommodating him. It wasn't supposed to be like this. While soaking in the bath, I suddenly murmured. Household chores, which we were supposed to handle together properly at the beginning of our marriage, somehow turned into my sole responsibility. I want to somehow improve the situation. However, there is a reason it turned out this way. My husband's parents are also a working couple like us. Both working for top companies, my in-laws concluded that managing household chores while working is impossible. To efficiently address this, they primarily order meals for delivery, and occasionally they hire a housekeeper for cleaning and home-cooked meals. My husband, who has lived like that since childhood, must have secretly longed for a nurturing woman. And when he found out I worked for a food manufacturer, he complimented me like this.
A food manufacturer? That's such a charming job for a woman.
At that time, I was genuinely delighted to be complimented on my job. Looking back now, he probably thought I was someone who could handle household chores. In the early days of our marriage, I was enthusiastic about cooking, and he happily enjoyed the meals. However, as life and work became busier, the time for household chores decreased, leading to an increase in relying on pre-made meals and delivery services. It seems my husband wasn't pleased with this change. At some point,
handle your housewife duties better.
And it's been like this until now. And here we are. Nowadays, he doesn't help with cleaning, laundry, or even meals. Despite that, he's become the type to complain about my housework. Even when he comes home tired from work, he casually demands that dinner should be ready. And he insists on being the first to use the bath. Today, I'm tired and want to go to bed early. Can I take a bath first? If I were to ask that casually, he would start getting angry, as if implying I were crazy.
Huh? You, as a housewife, want to take a bath before your husband? Seriously. What kind of attitude is that?
Just because I'm a housewife doesn't mean we don't both have jobs, right? I've been working overtime and am genuinely tired today.
Don't mess around. Lately you've been slacking off on cooking too. What are you tired from? At least, improve your housework a bit more before complaining.
These kinds of arguments are a common occurrence. If things continue like this, living with him might become difficult. Lately, I've even started thinking about such things. One day, something unusual happened. As usual, I woke up, but my body felt strangely off. Normally, my body, which easily gets up, felt unusually heavy today, and I wandered through the day in a daze. When I checked my temperature with a thermometer, it was a staggering 104 degrees Fahrenheit. Perhaps the accumulated fatigue had caught up with me. I contacted my workplace and informed them that I would be taking the day off. As I was eating yogurt with a dry mouth, my husband appeared after waking up. Normally, I would have already changed and be preparing breakfast by this time. Did he notice something was different today?
Why are you in pajamas? And is it okay for you to be so relaxed?
My husband inquired. Sorry, it seems I have a fever.
Fever? How high is it?
It was 104 degrees Fahrenheit when I checked, so I took the day off from work.
Huh? So, what about my meal?
Huh? I couldn't help but question my husband's words. My meal? Is that really the first thing he's concerned about? Even though his own wife has a fever of 104 degrees Fahrenheit, is he seriously asking me to still prepare dinner later? Without the energy to yell at my husband due to my high fever, I spoke in a calm voice. Sorry, but could you prepare something yourself? We have bread, eggs, and bacon available.
Huh? Why should I prepare my own meal in the morning? Are you trying to tire me out before work?
But I'm really not feeling well.
Don't act like a sick person over a little fever. Besides, you can prepare yogurt for yourself, but you can't do it for your husband's meal? You're a cold woman.
In this situation, I was genuinely appalled at my husband, who could casually shower me with insults. Even though I mentioned having a fever, why would he say such things? When he's sick, he just lies there and lazily sleeps all the time. But today, I really don't have the energy to prepare anything. So, as I started to say this, my husband clicked his tongue.
Oh, fine. Whatever. I get it. I won't even get a meal prepared for me. Poor me. Well, I'm off to work.
With that sarcastic remark, my husband left the house. What is it now? Whether due to the fever or anger, tears started flowing uncontrollably. In this situation, if there's no dinner when he returns home, he will surely complain. However, I'm not in a state to go shopping. I decided to call my mother-in-law and ask her to do some minimal shopping. When I called, my mother-in-law, likely before starting work, answered immediately. Hello, Sylvia. Is something wrong? Oh, Mom. I'm sorry to bother you out of the blue. Actually, this morning, I had a fever of 104 degrees Fahrenheit. What? 104 degrees Fahrenheit? Yes, so if it's okay after you finish work, I'd like you to deliver some food. Of course. I'm worried about you. Are you sure you're okay? I'd love to go now, but I'm working and... By the way, where's Daryl? Oh, he already went to work. Jeez, that boy. Anyway, don't push yourself too hard, okay? I'll come over later, so rest up. Yes, thank you. As expected from a working woman, she gets straight to the point. After finishing the call with my mother-in-law, I felt exhausted and ended up falling asleep on the sofa. When I woke up, the clock already showed 5 p.m. in the evening. Huh? Was I sleeping this much? My husband will be home soon. I haven't prepared dinner yet, and this is not good. I didn't have the energy to cook from scratch, so I arranged 2 pre-made side dishes and prepared instant soup. Then, my husband came home.
Where's dinner? Oh, well, I guess something's prepared. Had a whole day off, huh?
After returning home, he made such sarcastic remarks, but I had no energy to get angry at him. Even though I had prepared something, he said,
I'll take a bath first.
Saying that, he headed to the bathroom. Even though he usually eats first, why today of all days? As I complained, my phone rang. The caller was my mother-in-law. Hello? Oh, Sylvia. I've just arrived at the entrance of the apartment. Can you open the door? Sure. Please wait a moment. Just as I was about to open the door, my husband, who should have been in the bathroom, returned to the living room making loud footsteps. As soon as he saw me, he started shouting angrily.
Hey, Sylvia, haven't you heated the water for the bath? You had the whole day off. Can't you even do this?
Oh, sorry. I was only thinking about preparing dinner.
Useless. I'll just take a shower.
Saying that, he returned to the bathroom with heavy steps. Suddenly, I realized that the phone call was still connected. At that moment, the perfect idea for revenge against my husband came to my mind. Mom, did you hear that conversation just now? When I asked, my mother-in-law responded with an angry voice. Yes, of course, I heard it. My foolish son's stupid remarks, loud and clear. Mom, can I keep the phone connected like this? I want you to come in through the front door when I give the signal." Then my mother-in-law, seemingly understanding something, said, "Understood." She readily accepted my suggestion. Right after this conversation, my husband returned from the shower.
Ugh. Thanks to you, I didn't even get to soak in the tub when I was tired. Just lazing around at home all day and not doing any proper housework? Seriously annoying.
He sat at the table with a sullen expression, looked at the meal on the table, and burst into laughter this time.
Hey, Sylvia, what's this? A joke, right?
Joke? What do you mean?
The side dishes are pre-made, and the soup is instant. Is this for real? What kind of a harassment is this, making your husband eat this stuff?
I had no choice. I had a fever since this morning, and even preparing this dinner was a struggle.
Huh? Acting like a baby just because you have a fever? Normally, even with a fever, a good wife would do everything for her husband. Do you think you can skip housework because of a mere fever?
Saying that, my husband threw the dish, including the side dishes, into the trash. Wait a minute. Throwing it away is cruel. Why would you do such a thing?
Obviously, right? I come home tired and the only side dishes are pre-made. Unbelievable. Come on, quickly make something.
At that moment, I felt my love for my husband rapidly fading away. Until a moment ago, I had been dazed with a fever, but now I could feel myself freezing from the core. I took out my smartphone from my pocket and informed my mother-in-law. "Mom is good now. I'll open the door now." My husband, perhaps unable to comprehend the situation.
What? Did you just say Mom?
He exclaimed in disbelief. I confidently declared, "Yes, that's right. Your mother is also listening to this conversation."
Huh?
At the right moment, there was a knock on the door and I opened it. There stood my mother-in-law with a stern expression.
Mom?
Startled by the sudden appearance of his mother, my husband was flustered. Unfazed by him, my mother-in-law walked into the house.
"Mom, why are you here?"
"I heard Sylvia had a fever, so I rushed over. More importantly, about the conversation just now. What exactly is going on?"
"Oh, well..."
"Forcing your wife, who has 104 degrees Fahrenheit fever, to do housework? You! What kind of despicable man are you? Did he also throw away the meal she made for you? The one who should be thrown away is you foolish son." He probably didn't expect his mother to hear the conversation. My husband turned pale and collapsed on the spot. "Honestly, I thought you two were getting along, but to think you're such an irredeemable man. Acting all high and mighty as the head of the household is embarrassingly shameful."
No, Mom, it's not like that."
"What's not like that? Did you even once worry about Sylvia when she had a fever? Did you take any action to show concern for her even once?"
"Well, that's..."
My mother-in-law seized my husband's collar and bluntly spoke. "Listen, you're in a position now where you can't complain about being thrown out, okay? If you don't like that, then make sure to protect Sylvia." As expected of my mother-in-law, a career woman who managed to raise him while working. My husband was already teary-eyed.
Fine. Sylvia, I'm sorry,"
he said, bowing deeply to me. Feeling relieved by my mother-in-law's refreshing reprimand, I lost consciousness on the spot. Several hours later, when I woke up, I found myself on the bed. The door to the room was open and there was a delightful aroma coming from the living room. Heading there, I discovered my husband standing in the kitchen. "Huh? Daryl?"
"Oh, Sylvia, are you awake?"
"More importantly, why are you in the kitchen? What's that delicious smell?" My husband, looking somewhat embarrassed, handed me freshly made risotto. I was in a state of blank amazement at the unexpected action. "Did you make this, Daryl?"
"Yeah, I looked it up and tried, but it's my first time, so I can't guarantee the taste."
"No, I'm happy. Thank you." That day, the risotto my husband made was the most delicious I had ever eaten. While I was enjoying the risotto, my husband rushed to the supermarket for me. He He bought a bunch of things like sports drinks and jello that was easy for a sick person to eat. This incident prompted my husband to start helping with household chores again. When I come home late, he prepares dinner and fills the bathtub for me. Whenever I say thank you, my husband always responds with a shy smile.
If I don't do it, Mom will get mad again.
He says that, but surely that's not the only reason. Maybe he reflected on his past actions due to his mother's words. He belittled me, imposed household chores, insulted me, and didn't care even when I had a fever. When confronted by his mother about his foolishness and the despicable things he did as a husband, he sincerely acknowledged his faults. Since then, he started asking me about things he doesn't understand about the household chores. He now accompanies me on shopping trips, something he never did before. We even plan our daily meals together. Occasionally, my mother-in-law, who has grown concerned about me, visits our home. In those situations, my husband may seem a bit blunt, but he actually takes my mother-in-law's advice to heart, making an effort to share responsibilities and lighten my load. Thanks to my mother-in-law, of course, but my husband himself also tried to change. That was the happiest thing for me. It has allowed me to put more into my work than ever before. My personal life has also become more fulfilling. I have nothing but gratitude for my mother-in-law, who scolded her own son and brought about a change in my husband. I am determined to cherish and protect the married life she has brought us in the future.
Hey, Judy. What's wrong? It's a cold day when Christmas songs are played everywhere in the city. I stopped to look at a tree ornament that caught my eye. My husband, whose white breaths are clinging in the air, turns his head to look at me from a few steps ahead. He smiles softly, his ears red from the cold. I adore the way he looks at me. Nothing? Let's go home and have dinner. It's a hot stew for an especially cold day. I've already prepared it. Sounds great. Laughing, we hold hands and walk down the street. From somewhere, a familiar Christmas song comes into my ears. I'm Judy. What I'm about to tell you is a rather strange Christmas miracle I experienced a few years ago, and the story leading up to it. You're late. Before I could say anything, I cringed at the anger hurled at me by my husband, Dan. Where have you been? Well, I just went to the closest deli. It was the middle of December, when it felt like it was about to snow. His cuss words chased me out of the cold without my coat just a short time ago. Are you trying to fool me? I'm the breadwinner of this household. When I come home, I expect the proper dinner to be ready and served. Can't you even manage such an easy task? He grimaced at me in front of the dinner. No hot sauce. And how come you look blasé about it? There's no way to eat chicken wings without it. Don't mess with me. I was scolded so harshly that I rushed out of the apartment with a wallet and just came back with a hot sauce. As I gasped for my breath, he became even more irritated with me. Deli? Are you crazy? Isn't it cheaper to buy at a supermarket? He pointed at the hot sauce and rolled his eyes. You have no sense of budgeting. I couldn't resist retorting to that. Of course, I buy groceries at the supermarket, but it's far away. I told you earlier it slipped my mind to buy it today. Anyway, you get upset if the food gets cold. That's why I went to the closest shop. I did forget to add it to my shopping list and had it run out, but I was sure the chicken wings tasted fine even without it. I didn't get why he was so angry about it. His anger didn't cool down at all. God darn it. Where's your apology? I did earlier, didn't I? What's with your attitude? You're the one. My retort added oil to the fire. He continued throwing his temper at me for another hour. Who wants such stale food now? In the end, he flipped the plate with chicken wings and went out to get dinner outside. A few days later, I went to clean my parents' house that was up on sale and stopped by an old lady whom I called Grandma in the neighborhood. Listen, Grandma, your prediction was off for the first time. I didn't predict anything. The grandma who cared for me since I was a little girl said I was going too far and laughed ambiguously. No way! Everything you predicted since I was a kid came true. If they weren't predictions, then prophecies? I gave my wry smile. When you told me not to go to the mall once, there was a lightning strike, and it almost burnt down the mall. Another time, when I said I was going to relax at home all day, you advised me to go out because it was going to be sunny. I wasn't up for it, but you insisted, so I went out reluctantly and found out my house was robbed. If I was at home, I would have had to face the robber for sure. I still get the chill down my spine when I remembered about it. The robber was caught later on with a knife in his pocket. What if I was at home on that day? The thought made me cringe. Other than these, her predictions came true like she was a real prophet. Hey, Grandma. Yes? Even though she said it was all in my mind, or just a coincidence, she listened to me when my voice became serious. I don't think I would have been prepared for my mom's illness if you hadn't told me, especially she was my only family. My mom also said you gave her peace of mind. You told her that I would be blessed with something on one Christmas not far away. She was relieved to know that I would have a bright future before she left me behind. My mom told me about it in her hospital bed. It was a ray of hope for her, and seeing her content about it was a sign of her love for me. That's why when Dan proposed to me on Christmas Day, I thought it was just as you predicted. I met him through a mutual friend. He seemed to be a humble and gentle guy then, but once we got married, he turned into an arrogant husband. Just like the hot sauce incident, he got upset with trivial matters. He put his hands over the food and said it was too cold to eat, or a salad was too lukewarm for him. He was the one who played on his phone, ignoring the food for a long time. Not only about food, but he also criticized the way I cleaned the apartment and washed clothes. Almost everything I did wasn't up to his liking, which made me feel trapped and suffocated. I don't want to go back home to him. I couldn't help but whine at Grandma as I felt a sting up in my nose. Now, it's almost sunset. Don't you have to go back and cook dinner? Looking at the sky, she rushed me, being slow to move. Feeling softly rejected, I stood up lazily. You're going to be okay, as long as you stand on your ground. Even though you'll have struggles, you're going to be happy one day. You'll have a Christmas that will make you jump up and down in joy. So, just live straight and truthfully. God is watching. I quickly turned around at the words that softened my heavy heart. Is it a prophecy? Let's see. I'm just an old woman. She gave me another ambiguous smile and baffled me. Let's see. If I put more effort, Dan might change. I switched my mood, thinking It might have been too early to judge her original prediction. But then,
dinner, massage, iron my shirt.
Dan's hostility toward me got worse and worse. It wasn't even a year since we got married, but it became normal for him to order me around, and instead of a single kind word, he was constantly grumpy and overbearing.
Who do you think you are?
Why? What did I do? He was upset with me again one night.
You don't have the decency to welcome me back home. Who do you think you are to hang around outside until now? I have to warm up my food in a microwave. God darn you.
His menace made me sigh. I told you, right? I had a co-op meeting tonight. I even left a note on the table for you.
Shut up. That's not an excuse for lazy cooking.
What do you mean? I didn't cut corners. I prepared the main and sides as usual.
If it's not freshly cooked, it's called cutting corners.
His logic was messed up.
I should be prioritized before anyone and anything. I've been feeding you. You're my wife. You must obey me.
That's crazy. I was stunned by his incomprehensible demand. He stood on his dignity and proclaimed,
You have no family and relatives, and can't live on your own. A scum like you should shut up and just worship me. If you can't, I'll divorce you.
He smirked at me. It seemed to me that he was releasing his stress by making me obey him.
Anyway, give me a foot massage.
I tried my best to restrain myself from snapping back at him. He would have just become angrier anyway. Most of all, I had nowhere to go in the midst of sleet at night. So I sat down on the floor to give him a massage. My life continued as such until one day I fainted from excruciating pain in the middle of grocery shopping and was taken to the hospital by ambulance. I don't understand. My mind went blank as my doctor explained my condition.
This virus is transmitted by sexual intercourse. I had your husband get tested as well. Both of you have it. You didn't realize it as there was no symptom. As far as I could tell, you need surgery. I'm very sorry to say this, but I think the chance of conceiving in the future seems extremely unlikely.
Regardless of his concern, he told me clearly and left. Dan followed the doctor in a hurry. I couldn't have a baby. As I repeated to myself what I'd been told, my blank mind slowly filled up with darkness. I needed to find out more. I tried to follow my doctor and Dan with my wobbly legs. Wait, doctor, Dan. But I froze when I heard what they were talking about.
So, must everyone I've been with get tested? Exactly. They must be treated all at once. Otherwise, there's no point as it keeps coming back to you. Would they know what the test is for? Of course.
I listened with despair to the conversation between Dan, who was persistent, and my doctor, who was getting annoyed with him. The bottom line seems to be that Dan has had at least 3 girlfriends and is still seeing them. I complained to a picture of my mom in an empty room. I had a hope, you know. Even though he is not a good husband now, he might change once we have a baby. I kept the words of Grandma that I was going to struggle, but I would eventually be happy, like a good luck charm. I guess I was wrong. In fact, Dan seemed to only care about his own health. He was sensitive to his own condition and went to the hospital diligently, but he never showed any concern for me. As I lost my parents, I had a strong longing for having my own baby. I hoped for a happy family with a husband, children, and me. My tears rained down hard on a picture of my mom in my hands. Mom! A sob escaped from the gap between the fingers that clamped over my mouth. Dan suddenly appeared then.
What are you wasting your time for? You haven't prepared dinner yet. Here are the divorce papers. This is your punishment for neglecting your master and making a fuss.
He noisily came into the room and rained the papers down on my head as I was sitting down.
You are irritatingly depressing. I'm ready to divorce you anytime. No problem for me. You're the one who's gonna be in trouble, right? Instead of slacking, do your duty if you don't want a divorce.
I'm not slacking.
Oh wait, there's one more punishment. I'm not giving you the living expenses this month.
He looked happy, smirking, and came closer to me.
I'm giving you, a chance to reflect and change your attitude. Know your place. If you disobey me, a divorce.
When he finished with all he has to say, he left the room, looking refreshed. Divorce. I felt my feelings cool down at the sight of Dan's signatures on the papers. Mom, I decided. Wiping my tears from the picture frame, I spoke to my smiling mother. Watch over me. Then I kept quiet and continued living with Dan for a while. He treated me like a servant as usual and took out his fits of anger on me. I argued back here and there, but mostly passed the days in silence. And one day,
I've told you already, I can't eat lukewarm salad, and cold stew is out of the question. How long does it take for you to get things right?
As he began his tantrum, I sighed internally and decided to act on my plan. If I don't obey, you are getting a divorce, right?
Right. You remember that at least. If you don't want me to leave you, reflect on your stupidity.
He sneered and leaned back in a chair. You are a bit weak upstairs, aren't you?
What the?
He fluttered his eyes in surprise at my reply.
What did you just say?
I looked at him, whose expression showed his disbelief. You repeat the same thing every time. Do you know what vocabulary is? You only utter the word divorce over and over. Your lack of vocabulary is quite sad.
What the heck?
Let's get a divorce. It's totally fine with me. I'll be a stranger to you just as you wish.
What the? Are you serious?
I smiled and said my farewell words to him, whose mouth was agape, and he even forgot to get angry as usual. I've already moved all my necessary things out of here. If there's anything you don't need, just throw it away. Goodbye. I shuffled off the apron I had bought when I got married and folded it lightly. I placed it gently in front of him and put the house keys on top of it. I looked at him one last time. Then I left the house with my pre-packed suitcase.
What the heck is going on?
His voice chased after me as if he snapped out of his confusion. I could care less. Yay, I'm free. I pretended not to hear anything. With a refreshed feeling, I made my way lightly to my parents' house, where I decided to live again. 1 year since then, the divorce was already finalized, yet Dan continued contacting me.
You are sorry, aren't you? I'll take you back if you apologize. A wife should...
And so on. I had turned off notifications and ignored the non-stop texts coming in, which I'd never experienced in my marriage. After much persistence, I decided to have a final face-to-face meeting with him at his parents' house.
Why have you been ignoring me?
Dan, who seemed to behave in front of his parents, spoke to me in a sensible way. I've been texting you all this time, but you never replied once. Oh yeah, I turned off the notification from you. Why? It was too annoying. I am annoying? Me? Yes, you. So, what do you want to talk to me about? You are. His face slowly turned red with anger as I answered him in a deliberately annoyed manner. What's with your attitude in front of my parents? What the heck do you... Oops, my bad. He finally shouted louder, but then he remembered where he was and uttered an apology that he had never made in his marriage. I thought to myself, wow, amazing. He knows how to apologize. I tried my best to resist the urge to make fun of it and prompt it onward. What do you need to talk to your ex-wife you divorced about? He cut to the chase, puzzled that my attitude remained casual in the presence of his parents. Hold on. Why are you acting so strange? Aren't you struggling after the divorce? How are you living now? He made it sound like he was concerned about me. Yet he never came to check on me, even though he knew where I was. I don't mind getting back together, if that's what you want. Doesn't it make you happy? Not at all. I almost laughed so hard seeing his overconfidence. It doesn't make me happy, and doesn't help me in any way. I'm making enough income to support myself. Besides, the living expenses you were giving me were only $500 a month. It wasn't even enough for what we needed. I mean, you're the one who's struggling to manage such an amount without me, right? The cost I was covering for you are gone. And I'm much more comfortable being alone now. I don't understand the point of getting back together after being free. I pretended to be baffled, to which he was clearly agitated. What? You were supposed to be a housewife. I mean, the detail of our finance isn't what we're here to talk about. Unsettled by the presence of his parents, he mumbled, Listen, Dan. Stop acting like a little kid who got caught doing mischief, and calm down a bit. There's no point in trying to make yourself look good. They know all your secrets. What secrets? I signed him to be quiet and revealed the answers. You're mistaken about me. I wasn't just a housewife. I told you that I used to live abroad because of my late father's work, right? I used the German I learned back then to translate at home. There were many materials on the bookshelves, you know. I didn't care for those. Those were the materials and manuscripts before translation. You never touched those since you had no interest, right? Thanks to that, I was able to hide some equipment to record you. Wait. He was stunned by the word recording. It was his father who presented the real thing in front of him. See? All your secrets, like how you used to treat me, are out now. Your parents were in tears watching this and apologized to me. They are ashamed to have raised a son who treated me horribly. Well, being under the spotlight almost made him run for the hills. But his mother grabbed him and made him seated again. She signed me with her eyes, and I replied by pulling out the papers. These are copies of our divorce papers. There were parts marked with a red circle, which I pointed to Dan. You know them, don't you? No way. It was understandable for him to be in such a shock. What I pointed to him were the witness signatures. On it were written the names of someone he knew very well. Actually, there wasn't enough space. You had more than 2 girlfriends, right? Wait a sec. No more waiting. Before I could continue, a resentful voice was the first to echo. Dan, you never told us about STD. We only have a relationship with you. That means you brought it in from somewhere else, didn't you? I mean, what am I, a fling? Didn't you say we'll get married one day? That's a statement only a bachelor should say. Oh no. We watched the video too. You are a villain not only to us, but to all women. You are the #1 public enemy. You are finished. Surrounded by his girlfriends, Dan crumbled to the floor. At such a son, his parents made exaggerated sighs. I had a private detective look into his girlfriends and secretly contacted them. Of course, I had told my ex-in-laws the whole story too. The result was this chaos. Your game is up now. No! There was a strong request from his parents that their son needed punishment. All his girlfriends and I demanded compensation from him. He worked for a company owned by a family member of his mother, so the payments were deducted from the payroll to prevent him from escaping. He was forcibly taken back to his parents' home, and under their strict supervision, he was facing a long period of compensation payments. 6 years have passed since then. Hey Judy, what's wrong? It's a cold day when Christmas songs are played everywhere in the city. I stopped to look at a tree ornament that caught my eye. My husband, whose white breaths are clinging in the air, turns his head to look at me from a few steps ahead. He's smiling softly, his ears red from the cold. The little girl in his arms also has rosy cheeks. I adore them so much. Grandma's prediction is actually amazing. I murmured to myself. My current husband is, surprisingly, the brother of one of Dan's girlfriends. I hit it up with the girlfriends afterward and hang out sometimes. I met him by chance, and he gently soothes my depression. It's really a strange story. If it wasn't for what happened with Dan, I'm sure I wouldn't even have met my current husband. So that's what Grandma meant when she said, "I'll struggle, but I'll be happy." I'm once again amazed by Grandma's prediction. Moreover, after we got married, I got pregnant, which was said to be extremely unlikely. I remember when I got sick on Christmas Day, I was rushed to the emergency room where the doctor indicated I was pregnant. I was literally jumping up and down with my husband, and the annoyed nurse scolded us to keep calm and rest. It was a true Christmas miracle. This time of year makes me think about it deeply. I've been hurt a lot by Dan, but now I am so happy. Mommy! I come out of my thoughts when my daughter leaves my husband's arms and clings to me in her fuzzy coat. Nothing. Let's go home and have dinner. It's hot stew for an especially cold day. I've already prepared it. Sounds great. Yay! Laughing, we held hands and walked down the street. From somewhere, a familiar Christmas song comes into my ears.
On the wedding day, my husband said that he can't marry me because he has a wife and a child.
Today, I'm going to talk about my marriage story full of laughter and anger. So please listen to me. My name is Ella. I'm 27 years old. I work in the fashion industry. I met my boyfriend James, who is 5 years older than me, at a local marriage activity party. Why did I go to this party? My friend had just broken up with her boyfriend. She asked me to come with her. I didn't care if I got married or not, so I thought I'd just drink and eat and go home. But then, James approached me. He contacted me as soon as we were connected on social media. When I met him, he praised me highly. I was comfortable with him. I was used to dating cool guys, so his direct reaction was something new for me. And we ended up going out. Well, in short, I was flattered by him. We both lived alone. Soon, we were going back and forth to each other's houses. The more time we spent together, the closer we got. And he began to show little by little his true self. But at that time, I didn't notice that anything he said or did was strange or that something was wrong with his behavior. The one thing that sticks out in my mind is when he was taking a bath, there was an incoming call on his phone. The screen lit up, and when I looked at it, I saw the word Kansas. He came back from his bath. I asked him, "Who is Kansas?" He said,
Oh, my boss. I've recently been transferred, so I've forgotten who she is.
He answered with some impatience. She has an unusual name, doesn't she?
Oh yes, that's right. It's something like, some country name.
I wondered what he was in such a hurry for, but I didn't question it that much, so I didn't pursue it any further. I didn't know that this was a harbinger of terrible things to come. Looking back, other strange things happened too. The day after he stayed at my place, I borrowed his car to go to grocery shopping. His car was easier to maneuver in the supermarket, so we used to use his car. After breakfast, he went back to bed to get a nap because he was tired from working overtime the day before. I decided to go alone. I got into his car and operated the car navigation system to check traffic jams. It showed a history of directions to my house from an unknown location. He said he worked late at the office and came straight to my house. It is almost a straight road from his office to my house. The place where he left according to the car navigation was the opposite direction from his office. But I was carefree. I thought he was checking out the place where he was going to go for business. I took it as a good thing. But there was also a hidden reason behind the incident. We continued our relationship, and he proposed to me. I had no reason to refuse. I was in love with him at the time, so I accepted his proposal, and we were preparing to get married. On our anniversary, 1 year after we'd started dating, we booked the wedding venue and proceeded with all the arrangements. It wasn't a fancy ceremony, but the preparation for the wedding was still very exciting. The first time I tried on a wedding dress, I was so happy and excited. The guests were only my closest friends and family. My parents, my sister, and a few relatives. James' parents had passed away, so his aunts, uncles, and cousins were going to attend. Preparations were progressing steadily. All we had to do was to wait for the ceremony. But a week before the wedding, he started to say some strange things.
I'm feeling kind of sick. What if I collapse on the wedding day? The weather forecast is for rain on the day of the wedding. Do you think it's safe to hold the ceremony?
Honestly, I thought what the hell is he talking about? What the hell is he thinking? If you're not feeling well, take care of yourself. The chapel and the ceremony are both indoors. Rain doesn't matter, right? If you think about the road trip for the attendees, I'd rather have sunshine than rain, of course, but that's not what he's worried about. I let his comments slide. I quietly proceeded with the preparations for the ceremony. And finally, on the day of the wedding, the actual weather betrayed the forecast, and we were blessed with clear skies. All the attendees arrived safely. It was a small ceremony with only a few people invited, but I was very happy. It was a nice ceremony and reception. The incident happened at the after party afterward. The after party was attended by my friends from school and colleagues from my current job, and even friends from social media with whom I got closer by talking about fashion. I had a lot of people there. In contrast, his friends were less than half of mine. But he's not from around here. He got transferred by his company, so I thought it was only natural. He took the microphone to greet the start of the after party. He took a deep breath and said loudly, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I have a wife and child. That's why I can't marry you, Ella." The room was quiet for a moment, but soon the crowd started to shout in anger. But he told me in no uncertain terms, "I'm sorry. Please forget about this marriage. It never happened. I will return the congratulatory gifts to the people who came to the wedding, and I will pay for the wedding." He said it just like that. He ran out of the restaurant where the after party was held and never came back. I was surrounded by my friends. They comforted me. They expressed their anger. Some of them even cried for me. "Thank you. But don't cry for me. I've asked the restaurant to prepare something delicious for you. Now we should drink and have fun. Let's laugh a lot together." I opened a bottle of champagne with a few of my friends and drank a lot while pouring the champagne. While my friends and I were screaming in desperation, his friends had all disappeared. I mean, the groom said all that stuff and ran off. They couldn't stay here, right? I was convinced like that. But later, it turned out that this wasn't the only reason they left. After the after party, where we laughed a lot and made a lot of noise, I took a cab home by myself. Fortunately, we decided to move into our new house after the wedding, so I could go back to the house I had been living in. We have already signed the contract for the new house we were supposed to live in together, but I need to cancel it. He said we would do the registry of our marriage after the wedding. Maybe it was because he already has a wife. I have to return the congratulatory gift as soon as possible. Who did I leave it with? I had to get in touch with him, so I took my phone. On the screen, he and I have big smiles on our faces. I remember that I had set my wallpaper to a photo of him and me. The lock screen is a picture of our first date. After unlocking the screen, I see a picture of us on our vacation at the beach. I was so happy at that time. As soon as I thought like that, tears filled my eyes. I was finally able to cry when I was alone, whining and crying like a child. My head ached from crying so much, and I began to feel heavy with swollen eyelids. "Don't think I'm going to let you get away with this. I will never forgive you," I mumbled in a low voice, with full of anger. After that, my memory was cut off. I must have fallen asleep, as if someone turned my battery off. When I woke up, my head was clear, but my mind was a blur. But I thought it was only natural. I didn't touch my phone for a while, and there was thousands of messages and incoming calls. I first called my parents, who were staying over for the wedding. My parents were informed about the incident of the groom's bombshell via a friend who attended the after party, and they were extremely worried about me. Anyway, I want to reassure everyone I met yesterday. So to those who came to the ceremony and the after party yesterday, I sent a message. I'm okay despite everything that has happened. I have calmed down. I will let you know if there is any further information. After that, I asked my closest friend to come to my house. My best friend knows my personality very well. I wanted to talk to her about what I was going to do. Of course, I'm not going to let that guy get away with this. I won't just ask her for advice on how to harm him more than he already did to me. James' phone was, as expected, disconnected. He must have blocked me or changed his number. First of all, I had to find out whether it was true that he had a wife and a child. I asked my friends who attended the after party. I would like to hire a detective to find out the groom's background. Does anyone have any experience with this kind of things? I sent this kind of message. Then I got a reply from a colleague at my workplace. She got a connection to a detective agency because her friend used it when she got a divorce. I immediately contacted the detective agency and asked them to investigate. It took them less than a week to find out who James was. As a result, he indeed has a wife and a child. Furthermore, he told me his parents were dead, so that's why he called his close relatives to attend the wedding. But actually, his parents are still alive. They live in the near town where his wife lives. I also found out that he came to my city as a temporary postaway from his family, and that he went back to the house where his wife was waiting for him about twice a month. With all this information, I started to make a move. 3 days later, I got a paid day off. First, I went to James' parents' house. They seemed a bit anxious because a young woman, a stranger, came out of the blue to visit. I got down on my knees in front of his parents, who were wary of my presence. "Please, I beg you, I want to marry James no matter what." His parents panicked and asked me what has happened. I showed them the wedding photos and explained briefly what had happened. They wanted to hear the full story, so they let me in the house and I told them everything. I told them that I had met him at the marriage activity party and almost got married. How he dropped a bombshell at the after party of the wedding and ran away. As I was telling the story, I felt like a tragic heroine. I was surprised that I even cried, but I used my tears for my acting as a poor woman. After he disappeared at the after party, I couldn't get in touch with him. Somehow, I only found out where his parents lived, so I just had to barge in like this. "Where's James now? Where is he? Can I marry him?" And then, his parents looked at each other and said, "I'm sorry, but James indeed has a wife and a child. I didn't hear about their divorce, so I don't think he can marry you." I exaggeratedly broke down in tears. After that, I said, "I understand. I apologize for my behavior. I give up the marriage with James." I pretended to back out and left his parents' house. I left the wedding photo at his parents' house on purpose. I intentionally left it. I wanted his parents to see the evidence of what James had done. When I left their house, the next step was to call his wife. After greeting her politely, I started to explain. "I am a woman living in the neighborhood where James lives now. James and I went out, and we even made a promise to marry. Even though I didn't know he was married, I'm sorry for what I did to you, who is his wife." I revealed everything at once. Now, what is her reaction? Would she think it's a prank call? Or would she panic and get angry? His wife's response was neither of them. She took a deep breath. "If that is true what you are saying, I would like to meet you and talk with you face to face." She said that in a clear tone of voice. I met her at a cafe a few hours later. His wife was calm and seemed intelligent. We talked for a few hours, but she was not once distraught during that time. We exchanged our contact information for the future and parted ways. About a month later, she contacted me. I got ready with my parents and went to visit them. I went to the parents' house of James' wife, which was just a few minutes away from the house where James and his family lives. The people who gathered there were his wife and her parents, me and my parents, James and his parents. Their child stayed at home and was not with us. We were taken to the guest room, and as everyone took their seats, the discussion began. A gong rings in my brain to announce the start of the fight. Now let the battle begin. James opened his mouth first after being poked by his father. "I'm sorry that you all gathered like this. I apologize.
Ella, I'm sorry I couldn't marry you, but I'm not lying about how much I love you, Ella. I love Ella, who is beautiful and healthy.
Then what am I? His wife asks coldly.
I love you, Kansas, too. You take care of me like a mother. You work as a caregiver. That's why you're good at taking care of me.
While he was talking to his wife, I was reminded of a phone call I saw when we were dating. He took advantage of my misunderstanding and just lied that it was his boss's name, but actually, it was his wife's first name. It was a conversation full of lies. That's so ridiculous. James, let me ask you something. You say you love us both, me and your wife, Kansas. But what if you had to choose between us?
I can't do that. That's why we are in this mess. It's called bigamy, right? I didn't realize that marrying two women would be a crime. I wanted to call off the wedding, but I didn't have the courage. I just got scared and ran away.
You say you didn't realize it? No one would agree to that.
That's enough. I can't stand to see you being like this as my son. Take responsibility for what you did.
He slammed his fist on the table and yelled at him. It was his father.
But how do I take responsibility?
He blurted out pathetically. I stepped forward. I was waiting for this moment. Pay me what you owe me first. The wedding and after-party expenses. Instead of pretending the marriage never happened, you said you'd pay for it, and alimony for the emotional and social damage caused by you. I think it will be at least $3 million in total.
What?
Next, it is Kansas' turn. I want a divorce. Of course, since it's your fault, I will ask you to pay alimony and child support. I will never give up custody.
I don't want that kind of divorce. I don't want to be separated from our child. Besides, if something happens to my parents, who is going to take care of them?
Huh? I and Kansas gave the same reaction. But this is a matter of married couple. It's something that should be said by the parties involved. I gestured for Kansas to go ahead and step back. James, if anything happens to your parents, you take care of them. I'm a caregiver, but I didn't get the qualification to take care of your parents. Even if you say you don't want a divorce, I have proof that you cheated on me. I will definitely ask you to divorce me.
Proof?
In front of him, crying and sputtering, I rolled up my arms and stood up in front of him. I'm the one you cheated on her with. I didn't know I was your cheating partner. There is plenty of evidence that you and I almost got married. Besides, you also had other women besides me.
How did you know?
It wasn't me who found out about the affair with the woman he met through a dating app, but the detective who did the background check on him. The detective was following him to check out his home. It just so happened that he saw him going into a hotel with a woman other than his wife. So I asked him to investigate the affair incidentally. You are so sloppy. You went on dating apps and talked to girls. You lied about being single again. Now that I think about it, you even set your car navigation system to take you from a motel to my place. How could you do such a terrible thing? And then you tell us you love us. Who would believe that? Me smugly with my phone in my hand. I feel like a heroine in a movie. He collapsed and mumbled helplessly.
Cheating is just cheating and not something serious. My ex-girlfriend said I could do it as long as I didn't get caught.
That might have been fine with your ex-girlfriend, but it's not the same with me or Kansas. I'm not like that, and neither is she.
Ella and Kansas, you are two very different types. I love you both. I didn't want to break up with one of you.
Unfortunately, we both hate you more than anything in the world. I said it directly and went back to my parents. And once again, I stood in line with my parents to apologize for both to James and Kansas' parents. I'm sorry for the trouble I've caused. I was planning to get married to James. I was very shocked by what happened. But now that you've invited me here, I could say everything I wanted to say to him. I will ask my lawyer to take care of all the alimony matters. I don't think I will see you all again. Even though I didn't know, I'm so sorry for the damage I've done to you and your relationship. I'm truly sorry. And because I didn't have to be there when they discussed their divorce, my parents and I left them alone. When I heard his bombshell at the after party, I felt so gloomy that I thought it was the end of the world. But at this moment, I was in a sunny mood like a blue sky after a typhoon. I took up my phone and sent a message to all the members of the after party. A lot has happened, but it's all over now. The sky is clear. I'm fine. Let's have another drink together soon. I will give you the details then. So, what happened to that lousy guy? He paid me for everything. Maybe his parents took over for him. My best friend and I are relaxing in a room at a luxurious hotel, glasses of wine in hand. We are going on a little getaway when it's all over. That is what she promised me during that incident. I agreed to the plan. Hey Ella, that's not what I meant. I've heard before that you received money from that man. I mean, that guy. Didn't he suffer some kind of punishment or something? I heard he's being hurt enough to deserve what he's done. My friend said with a twinkle in her eye. Tell me more. I told her what I knew. The cost of the wedding, the alimony to me, and the alimony to his wife after their divorce was finalized, and child support. That alone would be quite a lot of money. Plus, he had debts. All of the groom's relatives and friends who came to the ceremony and the after party were all paid agents. Because of the number of people who attended, the bill from the agency was quite a lot. He couldn't pay it with his savings, so he borrowed money from a bank. The address of his parents' house was changed to a rental apartment. Kansas said he must have sold the parents' house to pay off the debt. Wow, that guy's parents went through a disaster. True, but they made sure they get back the money he owes them. And they're not going to have any other kind of a relationship with him. I heard they are going to cut off all ties with him. And how is he doing at work? I heard he is still working at the same workplace. It's hard to hide what has happened because it was such a big incident. People at his work know about everything, so I heard it's not very comfortable. My best friend smiled and said, she's relieved that he got that punishment. I agreed with her. I laughed, I got mad, I got angry. It's been a really busy few months. I've had a lot of hard times being stuck with a jerk. But more than that, I had a lot of support from my parents. I've had a lot of encouragement and help from so many people. No matter what happened, I realized that I'm not alone. I don't know if I will ever want to get married again, or if any bad things will happen again, but I'm sure I will be fine. I will smile and do well tomorrow.
Getting revenge on my husband and mother-in-law, who threw me away since I was infertile.
My name is Emily, and I have been married for 5 years, and I am a stay-at-home mom. I have always had a hard time having children. When we got married, my husband Jackson and I talked a lot, and we almost called off the marriage once. Jackson still wanted to marry me, and as a result, we have come to this point. I have been seeing an obstetrician regularly, but so far, no problems have come up. Then one day, I received a text from Jackson, and I couldn't believe my eyes. This isn't something I should do over text, but I need to tell you something important. What's wrong? It's hard to tell you.
Huh? What is it? If you don't tell me, I'm going to struggle to finish my evening work.
The truth is, I was thinking about divorce.
Divorce? Who?
You and me. Who else?
This is definitely a conversation that shouldn't be over text.
But why?
Do we have any issues?
Well,
is it because I can't have children?
There's that, but also, I already made one.
Made what?
A baby.
Huh?
With who? Someone you don't know. There was a woman I was talking to, and now she's pregnant, and told me I need to take responsibility.
So you're telling me you cheated on me, and now you have to take responsibility?
Basically, yes. There's more to it, though.
Like what?
My mother said she wants a grandchild, and this woman was someone that my mother introduced me to.
Excuse me?
I was in a position where I had to do what I was told. So that's what happened.
That's what happened?
Of course I'll pay alimony, and you can still live with me until you find a new place to stay.
Hold on, wait a minute. I can't keep up with you because the story is developing so quickly. Can you give me some time to think? To sort things out?
Of course, but please don't say you won't divorce me. It will be a waste of time and money to go to divorce mediation, wouldn't it?
Does that mean we're definitely getting a divorce?
I guess so.
Can you give me a couple of days first?
Sure.
Are you coming home?
I don't think I will. I feel bad for the other woman, so I'm going back to her place for now, until everything is settled.
I see.
Will I get to meet her? You want to meet her? It's an important time for her, and I can't let her see you. If you need to talk to her, you can go through me.
Okay.
I'll talk to you later.
The sudden text left me speechless. Yesterday, or even until this morning, I thought we were having a normal conversation, a normal couple. But in fact, it was all a lie. I was stunned that we had actually broken up a long time ago. And I decided to finish work that day anyway, and go home to think things over. When I arrived home, I received a text from someone on my cell phone. The sender was my mother-in-law, Mira.
Emily, are you at home now?
Yes, I just got home from work.
I see.
I'm sorry, I thought you were at work. By the way, I'm sure you heard from Jackson.
I hope you're getting a divorce soon.
Yes, ma'am.
And Jackson says he's going to pay you alimony. But you don't think you're going to get it, do you?
What do you mean?
I mean that this whole thing started with your inability to have children in the first place. Remember? That means you are the cause of Jackson's affair.
How can you say such a thing?
It's the truth, isn't it? Besides, once you're married to someone, it's only natural that you want Jackson to be happy, isn't it? A child costs a lot of money. He doesn't have money to pay you. You know that, don't you?
What about my happiness?
I don't care. You shouldn't need that much money once you're single. And Jackson needs the money to raise his child. It's common sense.
But my husband cheated on me. At the very least, he should pay me alimony.
Money, money, money. You're so disgusting. Like I said before, you are the cause of the problem. I should be the one demanding you alimony.
That makes no sense. I have told you from the beginning that I have difficulty having children. And top of that, Jackson married me, right? And then this betrayal.
I don't know anything about that. Anyway, he's not going to pay alimony. That's all I'm saying. Bye.
This outrageous text from my mother-in-law followed my husband's text earlier that day.
My life was ruined. I somehow made it to work the next day, but I was feeling terrible. I had no life, and the people around me were very worried about me. However, I couldn't talk about this kind of thing to the people around me. I had no choice but to say, I'm a little sleep deprived. Then, as if to push me further, I received another text from Jackson.
So, are you ready for the divorce? You should have had enough time by now. I've already come to the decision. It's just a matter of what you will do.
But you just asked me yesterday. I can't grasp everything that quickly.
There's nothing to be confused about. You just need to agree to the divorce without being stubborn. I'm going to start living at home with my lover now. I'm relieved to hear that she and my mother seems to be getting along well. I'm not saying that you didn't get along with my mom though. It's just the infertility thing was a bit of a problem.
I see.
You were moving in together. And, about the other day, about the alimony.
What?
I talked to my mom about it, and she said it would be wrong for me to pay it.
Yeah, your mom texted me and told me that. She said, of course I would get cheated on because I was infertile.
If you say it like that, I sound like the bad guy. That's not what she meant. This is the best thing for the both of us. I'm also talking to a lawyer about our situation.
A lawyer?
Oh, but don't get me wrong. I'm not looking for a lawyer to come in between us. I'm just asking for legal advice.
I see.
About the alimony.
How about offsetting it with the fact that we can't have kids?
I think that's a pretty good compromise. What do you think?
What do I think? We talked a lot about my inability to have children before we got married. We even talked about not getting married at all. But you said you were okay with that, so we got married, didn't we?
Did I say that? I remember it was kind of vague and ambiguous. It was like, let's just think about it after we got married.
What are you talking about? It's a matter of great importance to me. And you can't just decide on a simple matter like that.
But you don't have any proof, do you? Then you don't know the truth, right?
But
I know it's hard with so much information.
But please, come to a conclusion as soon as possible. You don't want to have to go to a lawyer, do you? If I don't get an answer by the end of the week, I'll file for divorce on the grounds of marital breakdown.
We're adults.
So please, cut me some slack.
Bye now.
I was speechless at how one-sided the argument was. But Jackson's text made me feel determined while I was in a mess and in shambles. I immediately consulted the lawyer. However, with only the testimony of Jackson and my mother-in-law, there was not enough evidence. It would be difficult to win a lawsuit in the current situation, and although it is not impossible to ask for alimony, it would take a long time. So it was not recommended for me to take action. I was at a loss for what to do. On my way home, I received a text from my mother-in-law on my cell phone again. Have you made your resolve yet? Resolve? What are you talking about?
You know, about your divorce with Jackson.
Why is it taking so long? I should be demanding alimony from you. Feel free to do that. Your son is the one who cheated on me.
What are you talking about? You don't have proof of that.
I have the testimony from you and Jackson.
That's not enough evidence, I'm afraid.
But I've checked with my lawyer, so I'm sure. It's impossible to prove him cheating on you with just our testimony. I'm not even going to ask for alimony.
Oh, really?
I don't want to end up like you guys. And to be honest, I don't even want to see your faces anymore.
Oh, you were trying to act tough, huh?
I allowed Jackson to marry you because he insisted. So, let's just say we paid you for letting you stay married to him. I'm done with this. I'll get a divorce, and I will never speak to you again. Please don't contact me either. Fine, sounds good to me. Well, Emily, goodbye now. As much as I didn't agree, I didn't want to waste any more time. I decided to get a divorce in a snap. Jackson was surprised at my change of heart, but I guess he thought he would better do it before I changed my mind. He quickly signed the divorce papers, and our marriage came to an end. 3 years later, I remarried to a divorced man with a child. We were enjoying our life together, and then I got pregnant. I had completely given up on the idea of having a baby. So my husband, who knew the situation, and I were overjoyed at the surprise. Then, on the way home from my first visit to an obstetrician, other than for fertility treatment, I received a text message on my cell phone from a person I did not expect. Hey, Emily. Could it be Mira? Yes, it's me. Don't wear my name out. I heard that you got pregnant. Is that true? Where did you hear that? So, it's true then. I forgive you for everything that happened. So come back here. I'll adopt the baby if you insist. Excuse me? What are you saying? Why are you asking me to come back after 3 years? I don't understand. Jackson's second marriage was to an extraordinary woman. She gave birth to a son. When he got his blood type tested, it turned out to be type B. Jackson and that woman are both type A. So there is no way they could have had a B-type baby. When I asked her who she had an affair with, she just said she didn't have an affair with anyone. When I told her I didn't want a wife who would beg for alms, she and her baby left Jackson. What? Really? Really? I was in trouble. And then I heard that you had a baby. I mean, are you sure the father isn't Jackson? Of course not. The timeline definitely does not line up. Oh, really? Well, okay. Anyway, I thought that you, who works and can take care of the house, would be a much more suitable wife for Jackson. So, when can you come back? I've got a lot of preparation to do. You'll have to decide soon. There's a lot that I want to say. At any rate, when you are a newborn, it's hard to determine your blood type. Didn't you know that they often change blood types later in life? What? I don't know anything about that. Recently, there are more and more hospitals that don't test newborns for blood type. I was told at the hospital too, and I'm sure you can find out about it if you do a little research. It must have been really bad if you were nagging at Jackson's wife like you did with me. Well, it's none of my business, so feel free to do whatever you want. Don't say that, Emily. Let's meet and talk first. It'll be fun. No, thank you. I thought we were never supposed to contact each other again. Well, it's fine. We're family, right? No, we're not. I'm divorced from Jackson, and I am a stranger to you now. Have you forgotten? I haven't forgotten. But once, we were a family. How can you be nice to someone you thought was your family, but then simply kicked out from the house? I don't care about you. So please don't contact me again. Wait, just talk to me. I won't be seeing you anymore. Goodbye. After that, several texts came in. I ignored all of them, and this time I even received an incoming call. I was thinking about consulting with a lawyer. I had asked last time because she was so persistent. Next, I received a text from Jackson. Sorry about my mother. She was having some thoughts and went off on a tangent. Some thoughts? Huh. It was a pretty bad outburst, and I'm still getting a lot of phone calls. What? Really? I'm thinking of getting a lawyer involved. I'm sorry. I'll get her to stop right away. My mother has been really troublesome. She would test the blood type on her own. And because it was different, she would make a big fuss about mendicancy. So what? You didn't say anything? I had my doubts too, but I didn't say anything. I see. My wife got stubborn and took the liberty of doing a DNA test on her own. When I asked her about the test results, she was furious that they proved paternity. I'm divorcing you, she said. She even demanded alimony. Isn't that terrible? Huh, I see. Are you tired? You don't seem to be reacting much. I'm just not interested in what you have to say. Hey, don't say that. If you start talking like that now, you are going to have a hard time from now on, okay? Like my mom said, you were going to come back here, right? Huh? When did it come to that? Because my mom said that you were wanting to come back. You're just being stubborn right now. And then I should give you a gentle welcome. That's disgusting. Are you seriously saying that? What? I remarried and I am very happy with my life. My in-laws also treat me very well and I love them. I don't want to get involved with you or your mother ever again. Do you understand? No, but if you don't come back, I'll be on my own. Emily, are you okay with that? I'm fine with it. Even if I demand alimony and you go broke? It doesn't matter. We were married once. You should help me out if you still have love for me. Your mother said something similar. You're the ones who broke off that relationship. But I will never see you again, and I'm blocking your number. Are you kidding me? Emily, please, come back. This is the last time you'll hear from me. Goodbye. After that, I left everything in the hands of the lawyer I asked for as quickly as possible. This is what the lawyer told me. Jackson and his wife ended up going to court, and after a while, they got divorced. Jackson's financial situation is very bad due to paying alimony and child support, and the story seems to have gotten out to his company from somewhere. It seems that even within the company, rumors began to sneak around behind his back. In the same way, rumors about the divorce spread through his relatives. And now, his family does not associate themselves with him or Mira. But I don't really care about that. I am busy preparing for my baby. But hearing this was a good stress reliever.
My husband left me as soon as I got pregnant. A few years later, we met again, and his life changed forever.
It was a beautiful, calm day. My sweet daughter holding my hand and looking up at me with a smile. My loving husband is next to me. I was enjoying a very happy time until I met that man.
Hey, long time no see.
Long time. Ian, my ex-husband, whom I hadn't seen in a long time, approached us with a nasty smile on his face.
Did she have a baby? Huh, an old woman like you? I wouldn't be a mother if I were your age.
It's none of your business. Leave me alone. I tried to walk away and move on, but my ex-husband stood in front of me. He kept talking, his eyes licking me from head to toe. And then, as if he couldn't take it anymore, he started to laugh.
You are old. You know that? How disgusting. Hey, you're her new husband?
You lose your life if you don't think about what's good and bad for you. I can't believe you married this old hag. The words with my ex-husband never seemed to stop. I clenched my fist when I couldn't take it anymore. I was stopped by my husband, Wesley, who was standing next to me, smiling calmly. Ian, am I right? Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. I learned a lot, and you were absolutely right. My name is Quinn. I met and married my ex-husband Ian at the company I was working for at the time. Ian was a section manager, and he was my subordinate. After we got married, I wanted to have children right away. However, I could not have a child at the age of 34. So, I decided to have an infertility treatment. After a long period of time, I was 38 years old when I finally got pregnant. I was really happy when I found out that I was going to be a mother. It was my first pregnancy, and I will give birth at an advantaged age. In addition, I had to work and raise a child at the same time. I had no end of worries. But more than that, the joy and happiness of having the child I have dreamed of for so long in my belly was greater. I was filled with anticipation that I was going to make a happy family with my child and Ian. But Ian was not so sure. Fertility treatment is expensive. I spent most of my pre-marriage savings on treatment. On top of that, the side effects tended to make me physically ill. It became difficult for me to do the same amount of work as before I got married. So I decided to change my job. After changing my job, my salary dropped to half of what it had been before. I was able to work less and concentrate on my fertility treatment with peace of mind. However, Ian had grown tired of me. The truth was, Ian seemed to like me because I worked hard and made good money. At the time, there was no sign of marriage for me, and I was on the road to success with my work. He took notice of my good earning ability, and that was the reason he married me. And yet, after we married, I said I wanted to have a baby. Ian didn't forgive me for changing jobs so easily and undergoing expensive fertility treatment. So he slapped divorce papers on me and left me. I would stand for a while at how easily our marriage ended. But I had to be strong for the sake of this child I was carrying in my belly. I had to raise her well on my own. I explained the situation to the company and worked my butt off. With the help of my parents, I managed to give birth to my child. When I finally held my baby girl in my arms, I felt like the happiest in the world. I couldn't stop crying with happiness. But the one who was even happier than I was my new husband, Wesley. I met Wesley as a business partner at my former company. At that time, we had a good relationship as business partners. He was very disappointed when I resigned. After a while, we met again as business partners at my current company. He knew about my situation and was very kind and concerned about me. Wesley and I had always thought well of each other. It didn't take long for us to become close in our private life as well. Before the birth of my child, I remarried Wesley. And for the next few years, I was very happy. Wesley loved my daughter Ruby very much, even though she was not his own child. He takes care of Ruby to the point of overprotectiveness. After giving birth when I became ill, he told me not to push myself too hard. He took care of the housework and Ruby almost by himself. I knew
Wesley truly cared about me and Ruby. One day, we went for a walk in the park nearby. The weather was nice, and Ruby fell asleep right after we got to the park. Then I saw a familiar figure walking ahead of me. I quickly took Wesley by the arm and tried to go the other way, but it was too late. The person who seemed to have noticed me looked at Wesley and Ruby with a surprised expression on his face. He then approached us with a smirk and a nasty smile on his face.
Long time no see.
Ian, long time.
Did you have a baby?
Yeah. You got a problem with that?
No. I'm just wondering, how could an old woman like you be a mother, you know?
It's none of your business. Leave us alone. Ian stands in front of me as I try to avoid him and move on. After moving his gaze to lick me from head to toe, as if he couldn't stand it any longer, Ian started laughing.
You are too old to be a mother. You know that?
It's disgusting. Ian's words never seemed to stop, and he looked into the stroller.
Your kid. She's ugly. Just like you.
Please, don't you dare say one more word.
Or,
if it was just about me, I could put up with it. But I couldn't take it anymore when someone makes fun of my child. Ian narrowed his eyes in amusement as I took a step forward. Before I could open my mouth, he quickly shifted his gaze to the side. Ian was looking at Wesley, who was right beside me.
I can't believe anyone would marry this old hag. And she's got a kid with someone else?
Really? Stop it. It's got nothing to do with you.
Well, Gwen, you made a lot of money. That's all you were ever worth. Without money, there's no reason you want to be with Quinn, you know?
My ex-husband is approaching Wesley and is smiling like a devil.
In this world, everything is about profit and loss, brother. Fools who can't think in terms of profit and loss would not survive. Just like Quinn here. Quit her job to have a child. Those who don't understand profit and loss will just fail. You'd better watch out too, Mr. New Husband. Maybe you were the kind of person who doesn't understand profit and loss when you married Quinn. Ha ha ha.
Ian's loud laughter echoes in the peaceful park. He made fun of not only me, but also my child and Wesley. I couldn't stand it anymore, and I clenched my fist and was about to approach my ex-husband. Then Wesley, who had been silently watching over the situation, restrained me. Quinn, wait. Calm down. Wesley, I can't stay silent after being told something like that. I understand how you feel, but violence is not acceptable. Wesley smiled at me, and I lowered my fist.
Quinn, do you know this gentleman?
He used to be one of my subordinates at the company I worked for. I didn't dare tell him that he was my ex-husband. I don't even want to say that I once married this horrible person. Wesley already seemed to know that Ian was my ex-husband without me having to tell him. He smiled deeply and nodded in understanding.
So it was you. Quinn, take care of Ruby for me, okay?
Wesley said so and handed the stroller to me. And then Wesley stepped forward to protect us from my ex-husband. He looked straight at Ian with a soft smile on his face as usual.
Ian, am I right? Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. It is true that profit and loss are very important, not only financially, but also in terms of the people involved. Sometimes it's better to think in terms of profit and loss. What you said is very reasonable and important. Well, you're not as stupid as I thought you were. Then you shouldn't be with Quinn. You know better. My ex-husband glanced at me. He was grinning more than ever. He put his hands around Wesley's in a friendly manner, as if he thought Wesley was on his side. Wesley continues his words while brushed Ian's hands away. You know, my father owns a business. And in business, it is very important to calculate profit and loss. That's why I'll talk to my father about what you said today, Ian. Is your father a present? If you want, I can talk to him directly. Ian's eyes lit up. It's obvious he's trying to take advantage of it. He still likes money and titles. How could he act so differently with someone he just made fun of? I was beyond amazed. I know you're probably busy, Ian, so I'll let my father know. I'm sure my father will be in touch with you soon. Well then, I'll leave you alone for today. With that, Wesley took Ruby and me and started to walk away. As we passed each other, Ian looked down at me. I felt a little pity for Ian. Wesley's idea of telling his father was not as good as Ian imagined it would be. I rather admire his naiveness to take it all as a good thing. I am sure my ex-husband will be called out of his office soon. Ian, who took Wesley's words as meaning what he said, didn't notice anything. Wesley's father is the president of a company that is an important business partner of the company Ian works for. Wesley was out of his father's company because he was now gaining experience as a working adult at another company. That's probably why Ian didn't know about Wesley. I also learned about Wesley just before we got married. Wesley's parents have been really good to me. When they found out that I was pregnant with my ex-husband's child, they didn't say anything to reject me. They supported me when I was struggling to take care of my first child. Ruby is very attached to my parents-in-law, and it's so lovely to see them all playing together. If my father-in-law had heard what my ex-husband said today, he would be in a big trouble. Ian actually went to work the next day and was called out by his furious boss. The president of the important business partner complained to him by name. This president was, of course, my father-in-law. My father-in-law, who knew the circumstances of our divorce, was furious. He made a phone call to Ian's boss and told him about his bad attitude and how important it was to educate his employees. My son told me that he was told by one of your employees about the importance of profit and loss. You should think carefully about how much profit or loss you could make by one person's mistake. When Ian's boss asked him what was going on, he finally understood the situation and called me. Hello? Quinn, I'm sorry. What is it now? An apology? I was taken aback by the apology I heard before I answered. I knew he would call me sooner or later, but I didn't expect it to be so soon. He must have been in a great hurry, because he kept apologizing over and over again. I'm really sorry. Please, forgive me. Forgive? After you made fun of us like that? I thought to myself. What's wrong? Did you hear from my father-in-law? I heard him choking on my sarcasm on the other side of the phone. I guess he's got your kind advice, you know? I'm really sorry. I apologize. I'd like you to let me apologize to your current husband and the president in person. Did your boss tell you to apologize? Yes. I was told not to return to the company until I apologize in person and get your forgiveness. Please, help me. We were married once. Please.
Quit it. You've only seen me as someone who earns good money, right? You're getting carried away now. And you told me it was all about profit and loss. For me, it's a loss to keep you near my husband and my father-in-law. Talking to you who made fun of my daughter and my husband, it's nothing but a loss to me. So this phone call is such a waste of time for me. If you understand, don't call me again.
No.
I hung up the phone without hearing Ian's last words. He had said a lot of horrible things to me, and I still didn't have enough to say. But at least I feel a little better. My ex-husband must be panicking right now. After a while, bad reputation spread throughout the industry. To begin with, my ex-husband had always had a tendency to look down on others and was not a man with a good reputation. When we worked together, I often had to clean up his mess. But after I quit my job, there was no one to cover up his mess. Frustration with Ian gradually built up both inside and outside the company. And then this happened. Apparently, Ian's boss was mad at him because my father-in-law's company was one of their biggest clients. In the end, Ian quit his job because he couldn't stay at the company. He is having a hard time finding a new job. I received a long email from Ian asking me to introduce him to a new job. In one of the emails, he wrote something like, "I know I said some terrible things, but I really love you, Quinn." How disgusting. Rumor has it that after he divorced me, he started dating a very young woman. But Ian had lost his job and could not seem to find another job. So she left him. You get what you deserve. He kept sending me emails saying, "I want you to help me because it's your fault that I'm in this pitiful situation." Or, "You should help me because I still love you." Well, it's a very definition of karmic retribution. I've been ignoring all the emails, but the frequency of them has been increasing lately, so I'm thinking of blocking them. I'm still living happily with my loving husband Wesley and my daughter Ruby. Recently, Ruby had started to talk, and I can't take my eyes off of her. Ruby is growing up so fast. I, Wesley, and my in-laws are very much in love with her. I would like to keep this family happy forever.
Your house, it's on fire. While on a business trip, I received a sudden call from my childhood friend. I couldn't believe it. My house was on fire. However, I heard sirens in the background of the phone, and my heart skipped a beat. Hurriedly returning from my business trip, I faced yet another betrayal from my husband. My name is Carol, and I'm a 32-year-old ordinary housewife working for a well-known company. My family consists of my husband, Gerald, whom I married 7 years ago, and our daughter, Riley, who just turned 5. We both work, so we've been helping each other with housework and childcare. Originally, I was dedicated to my job, and my husband's support was essential. Fortunately, my husband is an understanding person. He accepted my wish to return to work immediately after giving birth.
I know you love your job, Carol. I think it's good to work while you can, above all.
Thank you, Gerald. But if I return to work, there will be overtime and business trips. I'm afraid it might be a burden on you, Gerald.
That's not a problem at all. We're a married couple, so we should support each other.
But what about Riley?
Riley is my child too, right? As a father, I'll gladly take care of our daughter.
I see. Okay then, let's do that. Thank you, Gerald. So I gave birth to Riley and returned to work 6 months later. Now, our daughter is almost 5 years old. I can continue working actively, all thanks to my husband. Additionally, we have a goal to purchase our own home. The last few years have been especially thrifty. Thanks to this, our savings are steadily growing. By the time our daughter enters elementary school, we should have reached our savings goal. My daughter also seems to understand, even at a young age, that I am busy with work. She always sees me off at the entrance whenever I leave the house.
Mom, take care.
Thank you, Riley. Do your best at daycare too.
Good luck at work, Mom. I have dance and drama practice today.
The school play is coming soon, isn't it? I'm looking forward to going to see it.
Yep, I'll do my best.
Well then, I'm off then. I never forget to give my daughter a hug and say goodbye. Embracing my daughter every morning makes me feel determined to face the challenges of the day. On one particular day, I was informed of a 3-day business trip. With my husband at home, there was no need to worry about our daughter. She had gotten used to my occasional business trips before, but on this day she seemed oddly somber. What's wrong, Riley? Mommy's about to leave.
When will you come back?
I'm going on a business trip starting today. I'll be back after you've slept twice more, maybe?
I see.
What's wrong? Are you feeling lonely?
Yeah, because I'll be alone at night.
Huh? What are you talking about? Dad is here, right?
Dad, at night.
Just as my daughter was about to continue, my husband appeared from the hallway asking,
Aren't you leaving yet?
I couldn't help but inquire about what my daughter was about to say. Hey, Gerald, usually when I go on business trips, you stay at home, right?
Huh? What's with the sudden question? Of course, isn't that obvious?
Right? And just now, Riley says she'll be alone at night, so I thought you might be going out.
No, there's no way I'd do that. Leaving Riley alone at home when she's here? Of course not. Don't worry, I'll take good care of her during your business trip.
Yeah, that's right. Thanks. So can I count on you for the next 3 days?
Absolutely. Take care, Carol, and have a safe trip.
Thanks. I'll be going. I trusted my husband's words and headed for the business trip. As I closed the front door, I was concerned about my daughter's lack of energy, but I attributed it to the temporary loneliness caused by my absence as a mother. So I decided not to think too much about it. I then finished all my work on the business trip and then headed to the hotel for the night. Phew, I'm tired. My stomach isn't too empty, so I think I'll just go to bed early today. I took a shower and then lied down without having even dried my hair. At that exact moment, my phone rang. On the screen was the name of my childhood friend, Malia. She works as a freelance makeup artist. Even though we're close friends, why would she call at this late hour? It's already past 10 p.m. Could Malia have had a fight with her husband or something? Thinking about that, I answered the phone, and her flustered voice comes through.
Carol, wait! What are you doing right now, and where are you?
Huh? Malia, what's going on? Why are you so flustered?
What's going on? Where are you right now?
I'm on a business trip today.
Business trip? Come back right now. There's a fire at your place. It's spreading inside the house.
Fire? At first, I couldn't believe it was true, thinking it might be some kind of prank. However, hearing the sirens in the background, I became convinced that it wasn't a joke. Despite being shaken, I managed to utter some words. Wait a moment. Gerald and Riley are inside the house at this hour.
Riley has been rescued, but they can't find Gerald.
What? Gerald is?
They're still firefighting, so I don't have all the details, but just come back. Riley has been crying the whole time. Riley.
Despite being shaken, I hastily packed my belongings and caught a taxi. Honestly, I don't remember much about what happened afterward. After contacting the company, I repeatedly called Gerald, but couldn't reach him. What should I do if something happened to Riley and Gerald? Please, everyone be safe. My sound of my heartbeat resonated loudly in my ears, and the time until I reached home felt incredibly long. Upon arrival, I frantically searched for my husband and daughter. Gerald! Riley! Where are you? Then with a shout of, Mom! My daughter jumped into my arms. Riley, I'm relieved you're safe. Mom, it was scary. I'm sorry. It must have been terrifying. Although covered in soot in places, my daughter seemed to have no major injuries. Holding her, I felt relieved, and tears welled up in my eyes. Malia, my childhood friend, brought over a firefighter and explained the details of the incident. It seemed the cause was an electrical leakage. Only a part of the house had burned, but the bedroom's window glass was shattered, and everything was charred black with soot. If they had been a bit late, my daughter's life might have been taken. Just imagining it sent shivers down my spine. Then I realized something important. I grabbed my daughter by the shoulders to locate my husband. Riley, where's Dad? He was in the room with you, right? Then my daughter murmured, quietly looking down. Dad's not here. What? What do you mean? He was in the house with you, right? Dad said he had to go because there's a baby. A baby? What's that? While I was having this conversation with Riley, Malia, who had been observing, spoke hesitantly. You see, Carol, I was talking to Riley earlier and I noticed something. Yeah? Gerald has been leaving Riley alone at home quite often lately. What? Why? I don't know, but if what Riley said is true... A baby? Could it be? Unpleasant thoughts came to my mind. Leaving Riley alone at this hour without telling me that my husband has an important baby and that I still can't get in touch with him. All of it seems strange. I'm not pregnant and a baby with another woman. Gerald of all people? Cheating? Palpitations and dizziness hit me all at once, with a reality I had never imagined. As I stood there stunned, my phone rang. On the screen was my husband's name. I rushed to the phone. Hello?
Oh, Carol. Sorry, I couldn't answer the phone. I just found my smartphone stuck next to the bed.
Hey, where are you right now?
Where? I'm at home. What's up?
I see. And Riley?
It's midnight already. Obviously, she's asleep. Did something happen? Feeling lonely, perhaps? Don't worry too much. If anything happens, I'll protect both you and Riley.
My husband casually uttering irresponsible words, indifferent to the household turning into ashes. Moreover, I could hear a woman's giggling laughter in the background. He believed I was calling for my business trip without a hint of suspicion. I became convinced of my husband's infidelity and anger started to boil inside me. I won't forgive him. It's one thing if it's just me, but exposing Riley to danger? No way. In that moment, I resolved to take revenge, no matter what it takes. Thus, I decided to take revenge on my husband. After confirming that the fire was extinguished, I took my belongings and went back to my parents' house with my daughter. Although my unexpected visit surprised my father and mother, I had to convey even more shocking facts. I put my daughter to sleep and explained the whole series of events to my parents. So, Gerald's affair came to light because of the fire.
That idiot doing such a thing. Unbelievable. Leaving behind little Riley to meet his mistress.
Expressing their dismay, my parents continued to speak, and I interjected. And according to Riley, Gerald says something like, I have to go because there's a baby.
A baby? Could it be?
Yeah, probably. I think his mistress is pregnant, and there's a child between them. Furious at my husband's despicable actions, my father's face turned red, and my mother was left speechless. I wanted to cry, but there was no time to waste on such things. I calmly explained my revenge plan against my husband. Both of them were surprised, but quickly accepted it. Watch this. I won't let him have it his way. I'll make him regret it, for sure. The next morning, we decided to carry out the plan by returning to the apartment I once lived in. My parents and I hid in the closet, and my daughter waited at the entrance, ready for action. At that moment, with a bewildered exclamation, my husband unlocked the door, returning from his mistress's place. "Welcome home, Dad." Upon hearing our daughter's voice, he rushed towards Riley.
"Oh, Riley, what happened to you? The whole house is black and you're soaking wet. Did something happen? Don't turn on the lights."
"Dad, it hurt and I was scared." Riley began to sob.
"Riley, what's going on?"
"It hurt. It was scary. Hot. Help me, Dad."
"Hey, what happened? Well, first, let's turn on the lights."
Gerald tried to turn on the lights, but due to the impact of the fire, they didn't work. He then attempted to illuminate the scene with his phone.
"Oh no, Riley, what happened to you?"
He backed away in shock. Yes, at this time, my daughter's face was covered with special makeup for burns. Malia, who works in the makeup industry, was consulted regarding revenge against my husband. She suggested this plan. My husband, unaware of the circumstances, was in a complete state of panic. My daughter slowly approached her father and delivered the lines as scripted. "Dad, why did you leave me alone? The house got really hot and I was scared all by myself."
"This smell in the house. Could it be a fire?"
"If you were here, Dad, I wouldn't be in this situation. It's all your fault, Dad."
Wait, I get it. Just don't come near me. I'm not good with scary stuff."
My husband has a strong aversion to things like ghosts and supernatural phenomena. Approaching him with a grotesque appearance, my daughter was nothing short of a horror movie scene. My husband fainted and even peed himself during my daughter's act. Once we emerged from our hiding spots, my parents and I found his phone beside him, thankfully unlocked. I extracted text messages and photos from his phone, successfully gathering substantial evidence of his infidelity. After a few hours, my husband woke up and was startled to see me and my parents.
"Carol, and your parents too?"
"Finally awake, huh?" I looked down at my surprised husband with his phone in my hand. I already know everything, so explain properly.
Everything? What?"
"That you're cheating and there's a child from your affair. I have all the evidence."
"What? Gerald, tell the truth." "Yes, you have an obligation to do so."
Convinced by my parents, he reluctantly began to reveal the details of his affair. Several months ago, he started an affair with another woman and had been meeting her every time I was on a business trip. It turns out the affair partner is 3 months pregnant, but even at this point, my husband shows no signs of remorse. He spoke of something unimaginable, considering our daughter was involved.
"Even though there was a fire in the end, we're all safe, so what's the big deal? It's exaggerated."
"What? Are you serious about that?"
"Shut up. What's the big deal if I'm serious?"
"Don't joke around." I gave my husband a slap on the cheek, fighting back tears and venting out all the resentment I've been holding in my heart. "Do you realize how scared Riley was because of you? Because you prioritized your affair, this is what happened. I don't mind divorcing you and letting you be with your mistress, but at least reflect about having endangered our daughter."
"I never expected things to turn out like this."
"What? Shut up. Because you were fooling around with that mistress like an idiot. That's why this happened, right? If you understand, apologize to Riley. Bow your head and comprehend what you've done. You trash of a man." With the overwhelming intensity, my husband's face visibly paled. He bowed deeply to me, our daughter, and my parents.
"Oh, I'm sorry. I can't say anything anymore. I'll do as Carol says."
After that, we divorced. For my ex-husband and his mistress, I demanded alimony. And separately, I sought child support from him. As a result, my ex-husband's savings were wiped out. And he was promptly dumped by his mistress. It seems the mistress wanted to claim the home funds my ex-husband and I had saved together. Once the divorce was finalized, she believed that if she married him, the property would be hers. However, instead of receiving any shape of the assets, she ended up paying alimony and child support, leaving my ex-husband with nothing. On top of that, she found herself in the position of paying his alimony, with no reason to depend on him anymore. Moreover, it appears her pregnancy story was also a lie. It seems she planned to cover it up with a convenient lie after their marriage. Even now, I still receive desperate emails from my ex-husband, who lost everything.
I realized I was wrong. I finally understood that I love you, Carol and Riley. Please, I want to start over. The angels I should protect are only you two. I love you. I am not mistaken anymore. I will spend my whole life making you both happy.
These creepy messages are met with silence on my part, and I am even considering blocking his calls. If that doesn't calm them down, I'm prepared to consult a lawyer. On my end, I decided to stay with my daughter at my parents' home. My parents are happy to have their grandchild living with them, so in a way, it has turned out to be a way of repaying their kindness. My daughter has fully recovered and happily attends daycare every day. This weekend, we are looking forward to the long-awaited school play.
Mom, Grandpa, and Grandma, you must come to see it. It's a promise.
My daughter smiles warmly at us. I will protect this child's smile for the rest of my life. Holding her close, I give her a tight hug.